Guys, Fizz is really good. Now, I know a lot of you are saying to yourselves, well, of course Fizz is good. He's always been good. Well, shut up. It's especially true now. Fizz is a lot like Yasuo and Katarina. People just always hate them regardless of their win rate in the current meta. But I don't like this view of Fizz because he just isn't the same as the other two. Fizz is an assassin, which means that if you feed in lane, it is hard to get back in the game later. Yasuo can split push in a side lane and farm up for his big items, and Katarina can clean up a team fight if given the right situation. Fizz is only viable and only useful when he is ahead in levels or in gold. That is usually hard when you get pushed out of lane constantly by a ranged champion. So when you play Fizz in a different meta, when he isn't that strong balance-wise, it's hard to climb with him. But for the last 6 months, this sucker has had higher than a 52% win rate, and they haven't even touched him. Okay, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the early game is vital for Fizz's success. If you fall behind and can't manage to pick up some kills in the mid game, you're likely going to be tickling the enemy team unless you get a lucky shark plus EQ combo. Basically, you have to hit all of your abilities in order to get a lucky kill in the late game if you're not strong. So you're either Faker and make a game-saving play.
Like, even though I only have a man on the floor, I think he's in the bed. Oh, Faker may be in trouble here. Deathmark tries to clean it up for Ryu. Oh, look at the cleanse, look at the moves. Faker, what was that?
Or you dive in like an idiot and do 97 damage to the support. Nah, I'm just kidding. Laning is one of the most intricate and complex aspects of League, and then you multiply that by the number of champion matchups, and then you figure out that no sane person can completely figure out laning. So I thought I would make it a little simpler and give you 3 steps to master laning with Fizz. The first step is understanding your mid and jungle matchup. If you're new to the game or new to playing Fizz, then most matchups might be a little confusing, but that's okay. All you gotta do is determine whether your mid lane opponent is melee or ranged. And honestly, if you can't do that, well, I don't know what to tell you. The basic rule of thumb for most matchups is that if you can push, then you should. Now, obviously, there are nuances to this rule, but if you're playing against a slow clear, no CC jungler like Master Yi or Karthus, then you should try and push. This is especially true for melee versus melee matchups. If you are pushing, then you have more pressure in the matchup and you can focus on harassing your lane opponent while they are overwhelmed, trying to grab their CS without getting chunked by you. But if you decide to push, you need to ward. Please, if you're gonna push, just ward. And while you're at it, track the enemy jungler based on where your jungler is. And if you want to get really fancy, you can look at how many camps the other jungler has taken to determine his future gank routes. Fizz is great at last hitting with his W, so make sure you utilize this well without wasting all of your mana. If you have a good matchup and you know where the jungler is, you can go in for a few trades, which we'll talk about in a second, hold on. Or you can push the wave while last hitting with your W. Fizz's W also helps for last hits when the lane is pushing towards you. Although pushing and getting lane control is preferable, it's highly likely that you will be pushed when playing this champion because most champions, especially in your ranged matchups, will just push better than Fizz does. If this happens, just hang out, chill, don't take too much harass, and wait for an all-in opportunity. Step number 2 to laning is to look for the level 3 or level 6 all-in. Fizz is not good at levels 2, 4, and 5, so you want to make sure that you optimize your other levels to make sure you get the biggest advantage possible in the laning phase. At level 1, Fizz's W is great at poking melee opponents, or if you take E against ranged champions, then you can dodge their only ability that they have at the time because they're level 1, and then curb stomp them while stealing a few auto attacks before heading back to your side of the lane. Level 2, Fizz is okay. If your lane opponent wastes his abilities on minions, then sure, use your EQ all in and see what happens. But I wouldn't normally recommend this. Usually it's best to chill out and farm at level 2. However, once you hit level 3, you should ult in your opponent while using Ignite. You want to push for level 3 before your opponent gets it and go in. If they are too far away and scared of you, then congratulations, you have lane pressure. All you have to do is slow push the wave into their tower and let it crash, giving you time to ward or roam and also making it harder for them to grab CS. But if your enemy laner is stupid enough to hang around with equal or less health than you, you should 100% look for an opportunity to kill them. This is also why getting some level 1 damage in pushing while level 2 is so important, because if you play the first 5 minutes of the game correctly, it's GG go next. If you chunk them without killing them, then by all means use levels 4 and 5 to look for a kill, and even burn flash if you have to. But if it doesn't work and the lane is pretty even, then you shouldn't trade more than once, maybe twice to get them low enough for your level 6 all in. Now, level 6 is when you go ham. I mean ham. This is when you go pedal to the metal for kills. At this point, you hopefully have a kill from your level 3 all-in, or your opponent has equal to less health than you. This is when you want to shoot your shark and smash your keyboard for a kill. I know this is easier said and done, so I have a couple quick tips on hitting your shark to make sure you can maximize your kill potential. The first is hitting your R while you're mid-Q so that it masks your animation for half the duration. This usually allows you to hit your opponent if you don't fat finger it and shoot it backwards. The second tip is anticipating their movement to last hit. The cannon minion is the prize jewel for League players. If you go on Twitch for a couple of minutes and watch someone play League, I guarantee if they miss a last hit on a cannon minion, they will rage. So use this to your advantage. When they are going in to last hit a cannon minion, send your shark to the location they are walking to, right? This isn't rocket science. You know where they're gonna move, so send your shark there. Using these two tips will make sure you capitalize on the short window for your level 6 all in. All right, I'll make this last tip quick. Step number 3 during the lane phase is to not waste your E. Fizz's E is the most broken ability in the game. Fizz momentarily leaves the game and then lands on someone doing way too much damage. If you're playing against a decent mid-jungle duo and you waste your E in a bad trade or to dodge an ability you don't need to, then you will get ganked or harassed, which will end up getting you pushed out of lane. Good players are good because they capitalize on their opponent's mistakes, and this is the biggest one you can make as a Fizz player. So use your E with a purpose and don't waste it. Fizz has a very interesting mid game. This is usually when most players get confused about what game they're playing and end up A-ramming in the mid lane when they should be getting map pressure, experience, and farm in a side lane. In the past, before Fizz's rework, I would have told you that split pushing with Fizz is stupid. But now, his W has a cooldown reset when you use it to kill a creep, so his split pushing isn't that bad. So if you're ahead and can 1v1 or even 1v2 anybody on the enemy team, then by all means switch with bot lane and keep pushing your lead. You probably won't be a turret buster, but you'll create pressure and be able to find picks in the enemy jungle and flanks when you join your team for team fights. Plus, if you push too far and the enemy team rushes you, you can just use your E and flash and you're basically just gonna live every single time. However, if you are not ahead, that means you do not have a level lead or a gold lead, then grouping with your team is not a good idea. This is because Fizz has great execute potential, which it can get him back into the game. Fizz with his shark plus his EQW, I'm just gonna say all-in combo from now on. You're Fizz, so it's okay to steal some of your teammates' kills to get back into the game. Just group with your team and listen to whoever has the most kills on your team, right? Whoever's doing the calls, just be on their level. This game is a team game, so the team that works most as a team will likely win. So just follow the person that has the most kills. You also want to prioritize objectives and farms while looking for windows to grab kills in team fights, and this will help you survive and even thrive in the mid game. Alright, if you are lucky enough to enter the late game with a couple of kills and an experience lead, then good for you. But don't get too cocky. This is where most Fizz players mess this up. Fizz is great for the first 2/3 of the game, but once people start reaching 3 or 4 items and there are 5-on-5 fights, you need to chill out because you are no longer the strongest champion on the map. I see a lot of Fizz players throw their lead and eventually the game by just diving in one time without engage or follow up from their team and just die like an idiot. So when you reach the late game, the first step is to chill out and look for flanks. You're not the one looking for engages. Well, hopefully not if your team didn't suck during drought phase. So your goal is to look for flanks on the enemy ADC. Look to land your shark and your abilities, then use Zhonya's to waste the enemy's time and wait for your cooldowns. If you do this correctly, you can have a massive impact on the enemy team because for some reason, when the ADC is being doved, the enemy support and jungler do what they can to help, and then the ADC dies anyway while wasting like 5 to 7 seconds, which in a team fight is a really long time. Another thing I wanted to mention really quick is that if the enemy ADC is weak and your ADC gets dove a lot, then just hang out in the backline and use your burst on the champions that are diving your ADC. Just use your brain on what to do in the late game, and if you don't mess up the first half of the game, you should be set to win. Now remember, this is solo queue, so if you do everything I tell you, there is still a chance that you will lose. I don't like it either, but I've won games going 1 in 10 on Fizz. It is possible to win a lot without deserving it, but hopefully this video helps you help your team win, and good luck on your climb. I will see you in the next video.
Thank you.